Councillor Paulette Hamilton, thank you very much for joining us at Erdington Local here in the secret R Space Studios in Erdington. We appreciate you have an extremely busy schedule, so thank you for giving us some time to talk to us today. So I'm going to start off with a classically British question. Storm Dudley, Storm Eunice, I think the last one was Ferdinand or Franklin. It's a hell of a time to be out on the streets campaigning. How's that been going for you?
Oh, trust me, it has been windy. We've knocked on hundreds of doors. I've been soaked to the bone. I have got a knee problem at the moment from walking around. But you know something? I've learned an awful lot.
Well, I hope the chair's comfortable. As I said, we do have an extra bright red pillow if you needed any extra support. So, what's the response been that you've been getting? Erdington has been perceived as a safe Labour seat for some years now, although the margin has closed over the last couple of general elections. You've been out on the ground in the wind and all the weather. How's it been going from the door knocking?
At the doors, it's been quite positive, but I do not take any vote for granted. We've got to fight for every vote we have. So for myself and with the team around us, we continue to knock the doors, listen to what people are saying. I've been introducing myself because each vote is important. Up until the close of polling day, we will continue to ensure we get every vote in.
We've got some issues we want to ask you about specifically, but what's been the pertinent concerns of people across Erdington from your experience?
The three top things that people have talked about: crime and antisocial behaviour. They've talked about the HMOs and exempt accommodation, and they've also talked quite a bit about the High Street and the regeneration of the High Street.
Okay. HMOs is, as I imagine, one of the top on a lot of people's list. It's certainly the first question I was intending to ask you. So everybody will have one in place, no doubt, and I understand it's a difficult and long process, but what would be your strategy to tackle not the HMOs specifically, but the mismanaged HMOs and the exempt accommodation?
This is a government issue. The big issue around HMOs and especially exempt accommodation is the fact that we need legislation. We need clear legislation so people absolutely understand what they can and can't do. And we also need to be absolutely clear that if we have rogue landlords, we are able to remove them from the market as quickly as possible.
So what kind of legislation outside of the Article 4s and the planning caveats that are already in place and under enforce, arguably, what would be the kind of legislation that you, if you are elected MP for Erdington, would
Well, I have some brilliant MPs that are already elected in Parliament, and Shabana Mahmood, Prit Gill, Lisa Nandi, they've all been in Parliament championing the new legislation relating to HMOs and exempt accommodation, and it's strengthening it. Because I'll give one example. What does support mean? If you have an exempt accommodation, what do you actually mean by support? I'm a nurse and I don't understand what is meant by support. So we need to have clear legislation which enables us, one, to understand what support means within these accommodations. Two, if we have a glut of these properties, that no more of these properties can be put into an area. And three, if these properties aren't being run correctly, we have the legislation to support us to get them closed down as quickly as possible.
So what would happen to the vulnerable people living in the properties that got closed down?
The point is, many of these properties, the people are not being protected by keeping these properties opened. If you've got a property that is being run really badly, these people are not being protected. So you move them to landlords and to people that absolutely know how to look after them. You are serving people. You are not serving the decent people of Erdington by keeping them within very inferior properties. But let me add, this is not just a Birmingham issue. This is a national issue that absolutely needs to be sorted out.
I agree, very much a national issue, although Birmingham is referenced as a hotspot, to use the term, with Stockland Green within the Erdington constituency making national coverage about exactly being the acute end of this problem. That would be a problem any MP coming in is going to inherit, and the legislation is definitely a factor in this, but there's immediate concerns that people want to see somebody address. it may be a problem that's insurmountable, but what would you do that would be an immediate action for people in Erdington?
Well, I've talked about crime and antisocial behaviour, and I think you've got to, all of this is combined. So what we need to do, one of the immediate things that I would want to do, and I've already started doing, is talking to the Police and Crime Commissioner and see how we can work with our partners to ensure that some of the problems that we're facing within these properties, that we can work together to sort them out. Because, for instance, since 2010, we've lost over 2,000 police officers within the West Midlands. In Birmingham, we've lost nearly 1,000 police officers. Simon Foster from the PCC has absolutely made it clear that he will work with me in Erdington to look at how we can put named police officers back on the street. It's about local residents having the confidence that if there is a problem, that it will be addressed.
Okay, I mean, extra policing would be extremely welcome. I know we spoke about that at Yvette Cooper's visit, when you made it very clear of your support for community policing, which I think would, a lot of people would be very appreciative of. And I don't want to get bogged down in HMOs, because you'll probably have countless more questions about this and a lot more discussions to make of it. You mentioned closing them down, and the vulnerable people that are in, especially exempt accommodation, with the strains that's already on the healthcare provision at the moment. I'm just trying to work out how that balance would, in reality, play out.
Can I be honest with you?
Please,
if you've got 6 people living in a property that need support, they're not being cared for, that they're collecting money for these people each week and they're not being cared for, rather than leaving it open for things to continue to happen, I am a big advocate in moving people into safe accommodation. So if it means closing them down, it means that landlords will know we in Birmingham will not put up with poor quality housing for very vulnerable people.
Will you have the support of the local authority to push through any new legislation or any changes to practice?
Absolutely. The local authority has been working closely with the MPs to ensure that we get joined up thinking and action in this area.
Something I think people would be very keen to see. Just on the relationship between the MP of Erdington and the local authority, this has been something that's cropped up, as I'm sure it does in many constituencies, because you have a central controlling hub and then the representative of the constituency. We received a document sent out by the Labour Party, I believe in November last year, a disclaimer asking party members who were going forward to be elected for local office to sign certain caveats. The waivers declaring certain things they were or were not involved in. Pretty standard, can understand that. There is some points about HMOs in it, which we thought was quite interesting. One being asked, do you have any financial connections to HMOs or exempt accommodation within Birmingham City Council area? And the other one being the same question, but outside of the council area. It was an interesting inclusion, and it raised the question that does the local authority see, or the Labour Party see, that its own party members may be part of the problem if they're being asked to sign a declaration of this nature?
I don't agree with that. I think it's just people being open and transparent.
Okay.
You know, it's just people. I just feel the Labour Party need to know what their members are doing, and because it's just being open and transparent, and it's something that I feel that all parties should be doing.
Okay, yep. Checks and balances, absolutely see that. We were told the deadline for this was 18th of this month, and several people have not returned their forms yet. Have you returned your form?
Can I be honest with you? I'm standing for election, so I've had to fill forms in at the moment. So no, at the moment I've been busy trying to win a by-election, but I'll get my form in at some point if I continue to stand.
You must be absolutely swamped in admin and campaign trail activities.
I've been working 10-15 hours a day, so I'm actually not overly sure why, because my register of interest is there, so you know, it's just filling that in.
Well, I mean, if you wanted, we could forward a copy of that on to you, it's not a problem. But thank you for the HMO. I know it's a very big and divisive issue, and I appreciate you fielding some of the questions on that. So.